The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
Yes! Another win for Nebuchadnezzar and the great city of Babylon. Bring in their king. Jehoiakim, is it? Any words on your defeat?
King Nebuchadnezzar, I despise you. You will not get away with this.
I thought you would say something more profound. Guards, take him and any person of interest back to Babylon. I want scribes, scholars, prophets, nurses, physicians, anybody that can assist in building our great nation. Bring them back. And as for the peasants, we would leave them. I might even assign a king for them to rule while we go back to Babylon. But let's not forget why we're here. Let's plunder this city. I've heard of their temple. I've heard it's been filled with treasure for generations. Let's go!
Enter a chapter of upheaval and transition in 2 Kings 24. The kingdom of Judah is at a crossroads, facing the consequences of its choices. Join us as we journey through a period of captivity, leadership changes, and a sobering reality of exile. In this episode, we uncover the complex narratives of power, rebellion, and the enduring search for redemption within the pages of 2 Kings 24. As always, be blessed and enjoy. All right, welcome back to another episode of a Breath of Fresh Air podcast here with your hosts,
Nakhaz Gay
and Earl Roberts. Definitely appreciate everyone for tuning in. And also, apologies for last week's episode. The video just upped and vanished.
Yeah.
Up and vanished. I probably deleted it on accident. And when it was time to realize that, there was no way to recover the file. And I was like, well, it's going to be an audio experience this week. Sorry. But hopefully everyone was still blessed by that episode. And Nakhaz's birthday in real time was just yesterday, even though for you guys it was last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. God is good.
Hold on, let me pivot on that. I was wondering if it's lying, bro. Because last week it was like, yeah, it's my birthday. You know what I'm saying?
You did say when this come out, it'll be my birthday.
Okay, yeah.
In your defense.
Right. So see, but in my mind, it's like you have to project it. Because when it comes out, it would be real time. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, does that count as being dishonest? I don't really think so. You feel me? Like, I think if we nitpicking and really grasping, you could say yeah. But you know, it's what it is, bro. But I just thought that was funny.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Things like that is always be like, it's like it's so good when everything is black and white, and I try to keep everything in black and white. But in reality, there are like these gray, nuanced areas. And you're like, But then it's like, I'm about to have a theological debate on if this is a lie or not right now.
Bro, this wasn't planned, bro. This right now wasn't planned, right? But Ayana and I have this gray area debate quite often. It's happened like 2 or 3 Sabbaths back to back.
Mm.
They was talking about turning the other cheek, right?
Interesting.
And so
let's get into this one.
As homeowners, right? As you and I, adult men, right? Well, that's men. You see what I'm saying, right? We have a duty to protect. You understand what I'm saying? Protect what is ours, our dwelling. You see what I'm saying? Our family members, etc. Right? However, in the context of turn the other cheek, that implies that if you are attacked, if you get hit, give them your other cheek. We ain't going eye for eye. You see what I'm saying? But how does that align with being a protector? You know what I'm saying? And so we wasn't talking in the realm of protection. We was just talking in the realm of self-defense. Is Christ saying, bro, let someone beat up on you and just forgive? You know what I'm saying? And that's a gray area conversation, in my opinion, because Ayana, she could show me a text in the Old Testament that talks about like it's I can't remember the exact text, but it's in Exodus, I think, and it's somewhere along the lines of protecting your house. Like if a robber breaks in and you catch them or something like that, you know what I'm saying, what to do then. You feel me? So this morning we were listening to, I was on the side of, Jesus say, turn the other cheek, so I can't say not to do that. You feel me? And she was on the side of, we see David multiple times fighting battles, and it was righteous because it was protecting God's people or protecting himself or protecting God's anointed, right? And so there's no resolve for this. But we were listening to Doug Batchelor, and somebody asked him a question of like violence. How does God see it in the realm of turning the other cheek? And Doug Batchelor pulled up 2 references where Jesus says that you cannot you cannot steal from a strong man unless he's first bound, right? And so he doesn't, in this context, he doesn't vilify a strong man for protecting what is his. But he's saying the only way someone could even get away with that is if the strong man is bound and unable to protect himself. And then he goes on to say another one where it talks about a strong man being armed to protect his dwelling. You see what I'm saying? So it talks about the strong man and a strong man being armed, and Doug Batchelor goes on to say that, when it comes to turning the other cheek, it's more so a civil dispute. This is not a life or death thing. So somebody breaking your house, that's a life or death thing. You understand what I'm saying? We don't know if they can slap me and turn the other cheek, they can slap me. Or if you turn the other cheek, they can shoot you. You don't know. You see what I'm saying? So in that regard, you know what I'm saying? Like that gives me a little more clarity on what the text in context was saying of turning the other cheek. You have any opinion on that? I find that to be a little gray. That's why I just brought it up.
It's a valid argument. It depends on which side of the fence you want. And I think everything is in context. Oh my. It's like, what predicament am I in? I mean, you're saying like a home invasion. I personally feel like we are to defend ourselves. I mean, and it's like painting the gray area with a gray area, right? Like, we both aspire to have kids one day. If someone enters my house that like forcefully breaks into my house and I have kids, or I am protecting my kids because I'm like, what good shepherd would I be if I'm not protecting my flock?
That's true.
At that point in time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, should I just let you harm my innocent child? And I am there. I mean, like, one thing my dad was telling me, like, God put a man in a house to lead his home. You know what I'm saying? Lead and protect his home. And so if you take that charge, I mean, because that's an important thing. I mean, like, in today's society, fatherhood and being a man gets watered down, and that's a different debate and topic for a different day. But if you actually take that seriously, you're like, no, God put me here for a reason. These are things as a man, as a father, I am supposed to do. And one of those things is protect your family, to your point. And so I think, like, it's something you're called to do. I mean, yeah, shoot, like David, again, shepherd boy. Yo, you remember when it was pitched to Saul? Yo, when a bear come against my flock, I kill him. When a lion come against my flock, I kill him.
Straight up.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Straight up.
so I think in that area, like we are called now. Granted, I probably could back it up with a Bible, but at the same time, it's a gray area. To your point, it is a gray area. But that's my personal thoughts on it. And yo, someone in the comments think I am wrong. Like, definitely comment below and let's have this conversation. You know what? We might even bring you on the pod and we could further this conversation.
Right.
I mean, it is actually a really good debate, and like I like to use the word debate. In conversation, because sometimes debate people feel like you have to have like a right and a wrong, but I feel like personally, like I was telling you about like a sermon I was listening to yesterday that I did not agree with in many points, right? But I feel like it's good when the conversations are had and it gets people thinking, because now I get to choose what I agree with and what I don't agree with. And on both sides, I could do my own research to figure out why I do believe in it. And I think that that's where society wins. That's where like discourse is good. Because too much things like people just take from the news or take what their pastor is saying and just believe it as gospel and regurgitate it and keep on repeating it. But it's like, yo, if you believe in turning the other cheek applies in every situation, where's your research? Let's bring it in. Let's talk about it. And if I think it doesn't, and I find other examples it doesn't, let's talk about it. And iron sharpens iron. We might not come to no resolve, right? But at the same time, when you gain the other person's perspective and it makes you think about why your perspective may either be further right or it could have some holes in your argument.
Yeah.
Like,
and
go for it.
I do agree that that's the purpose of a debate, because debates don't always resolve. You know what I'm saying? Like, a debate, in my opinion, on my limited knowledge of debates, are two people exposing their arguments, right? And showing the holes in the other person's argument. And you win the debate based on how good you are at doing that. You see what I'm saying? So when I was in high school, they was trying to get me to join the debate team, and they was teaching us how to debate. And they were saying how they would give you prompts to debate things that you fundamentally disagree with. You see what I'm saying? To sharpen your debating skills. So you could be debating and there cannot be a right or a wrong. Someone is debating something, and a lot of times they debate it based on what they believe in. You know what I'm saying? But with debates, we just try to see who could get their point across the best. And for debates of learning, like I listen to debates on Christianity versus Islam, the Sabbath versus the non-Sabbath. There's no ruling on that, because it's like, we're not God. Like how you cannot come up with an answer based on a human's points. You see what I'm saying? Like, and it's salvific expense of all of this if you're wrong. So we just do this to educate, you know what I'm saying, to get people to understand. So when it comes to someone coming on and debating, like I don't even feel like that is a negative thing too. That's a debate is just in Nakhaz's definition, I might be wrong. You know what I'm saying? Two people bringing up their points and their stances, and everybody wins. You know what I'm saying?
I agreed, man. Like, everybody wins because it's sharing your perspective on why. Because you might have a lot of people who believe what you believe, right? And quite honestly, a lot of people who disagree. But now when they hear two people go side by side, it's like, okay, that's what they believe. That's what I believe. I can see how they came to that conclusion. You know what I'm saying? I feel like society right now is so polarized on so many different issues that they don't even hear what the other side is saying, because they say, yo, I don't have this view and I just can't take what you're saying. And I'm like, in true human civility, you're supposed to hear the other side. You're supposed to say you can reach some type of common ground. And I'm not saying like a common ground needs to be reaching everything. I'm just saying that in order to fully understand something, you should be able to you should know both sides of the argument. Like, for me personally, I like to know both sides of everything. Like, my point, what I agree with and what the other people don't agree with. So I could have formed my own opinions, and you get to know the topic in a little bit more detail. Like,
yeah, because if you one-sided on it, bro, you could have a blind spot, or it could be a loophole that you completely miss until the other side point that out to you. You know? And their loophole might be completely wrong, but you can see how it come off that way. You know what I'm saying? Now that's your job to find out why that's wrong, or if it's actually right, and that can change your whole perspective.
Right. That was a good like thought.
Yeah,
that's a completely good thought. So last week we were in 2 chapters. We haven't done 2 chapters in a good while, but we did 2 chapters last week. We did 2 Kings chapter 22 and 2 Kings chapter 23.
Yep.
And we saw the reign of the boy King Josiah, how when he 18 years into his reign, he was made aware of the lost scrolls or the lost books of the word of God.
Mm-hmm.
And this became a sweeping reform through the whole kingdom of Judah. He tore down all the idols. Like some would argue, he even went farther than King Hezekiah did before him. He reinstituted the Passover. He threw a Passover festival so grand, none had been thrown that grand since the days of Joshua. So Josiah was really tried to come back to God. We as we call it affectionately, a come to Jesus moment. But the sins of Manasseh was so strong, and the innocent blood that was shed was so cruel and so plentiful that God really couldn't look away. And then at the end of that, we see Josiah dies in battle. We went through some of the ways how what led up to him dying in battle against the Pharaoh of Egypt. Then we see that there was a next king, Jehoaz, and then after Jehoaz was Jehoiakim. And this brings us to 2 Kings chapter 24, where we're at. Granted, we have the whole episode dedicated to this last episode, so go back and get all the details and or read 2 Kings 22 and 23 for yourself, as we always encourage you to do. Read the Bible for yourself, and then engage in friendly discussion with us and with other people about the Bible. And so now we're in 2 Kings chapter 24. To set the stage, last week I ended also saying that in the reign of Jehoiakim was also when Daniel, who wrote the famous book of Daniel that is found in the Bible, was also alive at this time, just to give you a point of where we're at in the Bible and Bible history. And like we said many times, like from now on out, I think the only books that don't apply to this time, well, Esther was technically during the Persian Empire, so it's even after the Babylonians.
Mm-hmm.
Job, no one knows when Job happened.
That's so crazy, bro.
And Psalms of Solomon technically would have been pre this time. Psalms was during David's reign. But essentially what I'm trying to get at, all the prophets and everything was happening during our disbanded Kings. Chronicles is almost a repeat of Kings, which technically was the last book that was written in the Old Testament just because it came after everything. That's why that's such a different context. But like a lot of the stuff we're going to do now is going to be us, besides those other books, it's going to be us like coming back to a reign of one of these kings and talking about it from the prophet's perspective, which is also pretty cool because we actually get to see what the prophet was prophesying during this time. And you're like, yo, these people really had the word of God being preached to them, and you really like, oh no, y'all was really tripping.
That's why I laugh, bro. When you read it from the prophet's point of view, it's like they really was beating a dead horse, bro. The Assyrians are coming, bro. The Babylonians are coming. Like they continue to repeat those sentiments. You know what I'm saying? Like they talk about, and it ain't like they coming to have fun. They coming to destroy the city. Like the imagery that is there, and you know, people didn't heed.
No, and man, hot-head bird don't make good soup, as we say in the Bahamas. And you know, I never tested that, but I hope, because I never wanted bad soup, I guess. But it's just interesting. Like,
do you test the head of the bird when it's alive or after it passes? Like,
I need one of my Grammy. I know you probably can listen to this. Like, how does this work?
Right?
What's the head of this bird getting tested?
We some city boys, man. We just buy out meat already butchered.
Fox. Oh my. So I had a coworker who was like, yeah, man, like, because my coworker of mine, like, he got a farm, bro. Like, he got like 30 acres. He have like goats and pigs and chickens. He's like, yeah, man, you could come over and we could like butcher the chicken. And I was
slaughter
like,
something.
And I was like, huh. I'm like, sure. I mean, because for me, I want to go through it just to know. And I'm like, you never know what's gonna happen.
Wait, let me know if it's a weekend. I'd ride with you, bro. I'd ride. If I'm
right.
invited, I want to impose myself on your coworker.
See, like my coworker, bro, I don't know. People love me, not the song coffee. Like I can tell you,
Yeah.
yo, I'll bring one of my best friends with me.
This
and
is me, dog. Any friend of Earl is a friend of mine.
Exactly. But anyway, we digress. So yeah, so now we setting the stage, and we in 2 Kings 24, and we see. I almost just start reading from verse 1. In the days of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his vassal for 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him, and the Lord sent against him raiding bands of Chaldeans, bands of Syrians, bands of Moabites, and bands of the people of Ammon. They sent against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord, which he had spoken by his servants the prophets. Surely at the commandment of the Lord, this came upon Judah to remove them from his sight because of the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he had done, and also because of the innocent blood that he had shed, for he had filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, which the Lord would not pardon. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim, all he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? So Jehoiakim rested with his fathers. Then Jehoiachin, his son, reigned in his place.
So to something we say off mic, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you were saying, now your point still remains, because you were saying that there wasn't a lot of diversity in the names chosen, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this scenario, Josiah named his son Eliakim, but Pharaoh Necho changed his name to Jehoiakim. You understand what I'm saying? And so Jehoiakim must he like that name so much till he said, well, I can name my son that, unless the son's name was also changed. I don't know.
Boy, that's something else.
So just to give, we have just a short chapter. So just to give a little context, last chapter we spoke about Josiah. After he died, his son Eliakim, aka Jehoiakim, became king, and he sided with the Egyptians. The Egyptians taxed Judah. Jehoiakim gave Pharaoh Necho, the taxes and stuff like that. And so now we see where Nebuchadnezzar is introduced. This is a very popular, quote unquote, villain, I should say, as he stands right now. This is a very popular opposer of Judah and in world history.
Man, it's going to be interesting when we get to Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel, because he has a very interesting story arc.
He does, bro. He does. And I don't know if people remember. I'm sure people are familiar with the story, like if you read Daniel or heard of Daniel, but I don't know if people remember the timeline of Nebuchadnezzar, bro. But so we have Nebuchadnezzar now is at odds of Judah, and he went against Judah to destroy it. How did that happen? Judah was in the line of fire. Egypt and Babylon, historically, like out extra biblical sources, you could find history on this. They were at war during the beginning stage of Nebuchadnezzar's conquest. This was before he became king, and they were going out to war. Josiah saw Egypt as a threat, and Josiah tried to get ahead of it. Hey, no, I can stop you, Egypt. And it didn't work. You understand what I'm saying? He passed away, rest in peace. And now his son became subject to Egypt, and they were kind of in cahoots together. They were allies in some degree. Nebuchadnezzar now, who wants to defeat Egypt, sees Judah as a threat. Now, as history goes, Nebuchadnezzar lost to Egypt. You understand what I'm saying? But that did not affect him actually going on to be a great ruler. But now, in the meantime, this other little fly, this little pesky fly right now, Judah, Nebuchadnezzar had to take care of, because you don't want to have to deal with Egypt and Judah. You see what I'm saying? So you got to divide and conquer. You know what I mean? And so Nebuchadnezzar saw Judah as a battle that could be conquered, that could be won. You know what I'm saying? And he did so. So that was a very tactical and political move on Nebuchadnezzar's behalf. You know what I'm saying?
So there's one thing. So I think technically he did beat the Egyptians, and he was chasing them all the way down to Sinai to like kind of conquer them as he come down. So that was one thing. So he beat them, and he was going, because people know the world today. Egypt and Sinai, like Egypt right next door, right now, the Sinai Peninsula is a part of Egypt still to this day. Nebuchadnezzar was coming down. And then we all know from last chapter, Israel essentially became a vassal state to Egypt because King Pharaoh Necho came and took them. And so Nebuchadnezzar was like, I can't leave you all as this buffer state between our nations intact. And so he, kind of swiftly dealt with Judah on his way either down to Egypt to try to reduce them, or on his way up, because historically, people say this happened in the year 605 BC.
Okay, can I wait, 605? 605 BC?
That's when he actually became king. Because remember I was saying off part, technically when he was doing this part in Judah and Egypt, he was the crown prince. It's almost like, think of like MBS right now, who is like the ruler of Saudi Arabia, but he ain't king because he's still a crown prince because his daddy's still alive.
Right. So 601 BC would have been
like 4 years prior.
Okay, cool. You sure? I get confused.
4 years after.
4 years after.
Yeah, because the BC is beginning. Yeah.
So, oh man, so I was doing research on Nebuchadnezzar, right? And I have two sources right here. One from, it's like a Baylor article from Baylor University. Indeed, Egypt does not go down easily. On the contrary, in his fourth year, 601 BC, Nebuchadnezzar failed in his attempt to conquer Egypt. You see what I'm saying? But following his failure.
That's the thing, right? Because like Egypt, to come up and attack Babylon. So they had to come up. So he was fighting them back down. So he might have beat them in the battle, but the war, because it's like he had to pull back when his daddy died to go back to secure his throne.
Right.
So he couldn't like finish fight them then. He's like, all right, get back up. So in 601, he might have come back down and try to conquer Egypt proper. He might have failed then, but these things go back and forth.
So I wasn't talking in the war. I was talking like battle perspective, but I don't have my chronology intact, as in what happened before Judah was conquered. You see what I'm saying? Like, I know from academic sources that he lost a battle to Egypt, and I know from biblical sources that he won Judah. And historically, you can see he won Judah, because up until after this point, bro, like, you don't hear about Egypt reigning over Israel or taxing them in any type of way, So yeah, man, we got this man. Nebuchadnezzar. He's starting something. He on the verge.
Ain't he? So now, and again, this is like the rule of the Babylonian Empire that we will be so acquainted with as we go through some of these prophets.
Yep.
So this is the reign of the Babylonian Empire, headed by King Nebuchadnezzar, who is, honestly, one of the most famous Babylonian kings, and probably some that comes from the Bible too, like. So in verse 7 of chapter 24, and the king of Egypt did not come out from his land anymore, for the king of Babylon had taken all that belonged to the king of Egypt, from the brook of Egypt to the river Euphrates. So again, we see like he had to fight the Egyptians all the way back down to Egypt. So Egypt's like, well, we ain't come up, we can still be here. All right, in verse 8, Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. His mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did evil in the sight of the Lord according to all that his father had done. At the time, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up against Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came against the city, and as his servants were besieging it, then Jehoiachin, king of Judah, his mother, his servants, his princes, his officers, went out to the king of Babylon, and the king of Babylon, and the king of Babylon, in the 8th year of his reign, took him prisoner. I can go on to 13. And he carried out from there all the treasures of the house of the Lord and all the treasures of the king's house, and cut in pieces all the articles of gold which Solomon, king of Israel, had made in the temple of the Lord, as the Lord has said. He also carried into captivity all Jerusalem, all the captains, all the mighty men of valor, 10,000 captains, and all the craftsmen and the smith. None remained except the poorest people in the land. And he carried Jehoiachin captive to Babylon, the king's mother, the king's wives, his officers, and the and the mighty of the land he carried into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon. All the valiant men, 7,000, and the craftsmen and the smiths, 1,000, all who were strong and fit for war, these the king of Babylon brought captive to Babylon.
So when I used to watch the Bible cartoons, right? They had, oh man, my light just went off. They had not Nebuchadnezzar, in the story of Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
One of the cartoons I used to watch, they had Daniel as a righteous man, but they painted him as somebody who was like very homesick and just ready to go home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting. I'm not saying that's false. But when you actually read the story, it's so interesting, like how it all went down. They they conquer the city. They completely destroy it. They sack the city. They stole all of the resources, all of the coal, but they take any person of interest, and now y'all coming to Babylon. You see what I'm saying? If you can fight, you coming to my army. If you smart, you coming in my court, XYZ. And they left the poorest of the people in Judah. So when I watched the cartoon, I thinking that everybody was either killed or taken. You understand what I'm saying? But no, after he destroyed the city, he left the poor people to just stay in this desolate city. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm just like, bro, what is worse? Like, what is worse in this situation? You have your life, right? But you just a desolate wasteland that you left with. Or, excuse me, being taken away to be in this foreign land for probably the rest of your life.
Boy, that's a serious would you rather.
Would you rather? Would you rather? I mean, it's an insult because, bro, it's like somebody coming through, right? And they see somebody coming through to fight. And imagine all us line up. And they fighting all us one by one. Boom, boom, fighting one by one. Then when they get to me, they say, I didn't even worry about you. And they go and fight someone else. You know what I mean? Like, so they left the people who they considered to be like not valuable. You know what I'm saying? Like to just live in desolation.
I mean, this strategy was, it's ironic I'm saying this strategy was sound though. Like anyone who could help us, but furthermore, not even helping us, anyone who could start an uprising against us, is bet I take you with me, because you ain't gonna start an uprising in Babylon.
No.
So I leave in y'all people, bro, it sucks, but essentially, I don't want to call y'all slaves, but y'all just subservient to the Babylonian kingdom at this point, because y'all literally almost have no hope, bro. Y'all only hope is God.
I would say glorified slaves though, because like all through history, so for the next couple of seconds when I talk about this, let's forget about the transatlantic slave trade. Let's forget about that. Whenever you see anybody go to war, whoever they bring back will be servants for the rest of their life. You see what I'm saying? Like, but it happens. White families, black families. I was watching a documentary on Mansa Musa. He had slaves. They was all gold up. They had plenty gold now. You see what I'm saying? But they still were slaves. You see, there's a black man who had slaves. You see what I'm saying? It was very common practice. Some people were slaves, even biblically. When they talk about slaves biblically, these are people who owe a great debt and they can't pay it. You understand what I'm saying? So they become slaves to pay it off. Some people want to be slaves for the rest of their life. Some people was born while their parents agreed to be slaves forever. So they also slaves forever. But this wasn't slaves in terms of kidnapping people or brutally abusing people. That's why I say to ignore the transatlantic slave, because that's a new age form of slavery that has impacted the world differently. But before, when they talk about slaves, that's your servants. You know what I'm saying? Daniel, I assume Daniel was paid a wage, because I imagine it's a hierarchy. You know what I'm saying? You more prestigious slave.
They were smart, man. They said, oh yeah, we could use y'all.
Real talk. You see what I'm saying?
But again, do you see their point though? Like they saying, okay, not only if you could fight, if you smart, we are taking you back to help build our empire.
Oh
We
yeah.
ain't leaving you here. Again, you ain't gonna form no type of organized rebellion. The poor people and they won't call them dumb, but the less educated people who they are, well, we leaving y'all here. Y'all could think about it, we could control y'all with like 1 or 2 soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we don't have to worry about y'all starting a rebellion. All the smart people, all the people who could fight, you just think about it. You need someone smart enough to organize the rebellion, and you need people strong enough to carry it out.
Mm-hmm.
I leaving y'all here. I
Nope.
bringing y'all to Babylon to indoctrinate y'all in the Babylonian culture and Babylonian ways. So y'all can help me build this empire. And even if you have a begrudging against me, you can't beat me at home.
No, they
So
can't.
either way, I win it.
Yeah, y'all can form an occupation, whatever. It's not gonna work. Y'all vastly outnumbered. You know? Y'all
Yeah, so
vastly outnumbered.
that's interesting though. But like, man, to sum up everything, well, not everything, but it's like think about everything that's led up to here. Now, if you look at it, the kingdom of Israel had already been conquered for like almost like 400 years at this point.
Mm.
It might be a little less than that. I didn't do my math yet, but I think it's about 400 years, honestly. They was conquered for a while now.
Oh, the kingdom of Israel. Yeah.
Before the kingdom of Judah.
Yeah. I ain't do the math.
It was at least 200 years.
It's been a long time.
It's been a couple of kings. Well,
yeah.
And Judah saw that, right? And to your point, when Hezekiah come on the throne, we knew we essentially said like his reform was directly influenced by what just happened to the kingdom of Israel, right? But y'all knew the blueprint on what y'all needed to do, and y'all still didn't do it. And now you guys get conquered by the first real superpower in the world. That's just insane.
So according to Wikipedia,
what they say,
Samaria was conquered in 720 BC. So this would have been like 120 years.
120 years, okay, good.
Around there.
A little hyperbolic on my part.
No, I mean, you can't tell because there's so many kings. Like even Josiah's sons. He on his second son. No, actually, wait, hold on. So it was Jehoiakim. Yeah. So Josiah died, and Jehoahaz was his first son, right? Then his second son reigned, and then now we on Josiah's grandson now. So that's 3 kings already, when it's just 2 generations past. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when you go through the narrative, we go through so many kings, so many years. If you was to estimate, you don't really have a firm understanding unless you was to actually count how old were they when they became king, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, over 100 years now.
Yeah, it was like around 120, 130. I just see like Hezekiah to Jehoiachin. So, but yeah, I mean, like, they've been conquered for, that's over a century, but that's still a long time. No matter how you shake it. Like, shoot, I might not live to 100. Like,
it's a long time, bro. But even think about stuff that used to happen in the 60s and the 70s, it seemed like a long time, just in terms of how culture progressed since then.
In our pretty much 30 years of life, bro, we legit could remember when the internet wasn't a thing, and then we had dial-up, and then we had regular slow-speed internet, and now we have internet in the palm of our hands. Now we have artificial intelligence.
I remember going to my mom in like the 5th grade, bragging that I have a friend at school who every member of our household has a laptop. I was wondering what type of wealth was that, bro. I was like, bro, you in the 5th grade have a laptop? We gotta share the computer. We got one desktop. And me and my siblings, we get like an hour. We just rotating. You see what I said? You done do your hour. You see what I said? Like, just like that. And that was, to me, like, it would have been like completely unnecessary it would have been fun, but it would have been very unnecessary for all of us in the house. My mom had a laptop, we had a desktop. For all of us to have laptops, though, that would have been completely absurd, in my opinion.
But today,
wow, that's a regular flex, bro. Like,
exactly. If you don't have a laptop, you ain't saying nothing. Bro.
Every kid have an iPod over here. I being hyperbolic, but most kids in the States, And the Bahamas too, they got their iPod, bro. Like that's their, they don't need, they ain't even,
phone.
and phone. They ain't even into TV like that for real, bro. Unless it's game, darling. Like you got your iPod, bro. So just seeing that, I was talking to my boy the other day, and he was telling me prices of stuff back home, and I was like, bro, a bottle of soda costs how much? I remember when a bottle of soda was $1, bro.
We sound like our parents.
Yeah, I sound like old people for true, because I remember you go in the ghetto, you could get a bottle of soda for 75 cents, bro. I kid you not, bro. You see what I'm saying? Like, for real, bro. Like,
Real talk.
nah,
Remember when $5 could get you bamboo shack and a drink?
that's something. A full combo.
You go to bamboo shack, you gotta have at least almost $10.
Yeah, bro, easy. And you know what's so funny? Even in America, bro, you get a fast food combo, you gotta have your $10 ready, bro. You see what I'm saying? You ain't getting no combo on a drink for less than $10 for real. Like in Florida, that's the consensus, bro. Like you can spend that $10, bro. If I buy it for me and my wife, I gotta spend that 20 minimum. You see what I'm saying? And I'm like, bro, $20, bro. Like $20?
Wait for fast food, man. I tell you. Anyway, we digress.
Right, we digress.
We digress. But I think my point was that, man, Judah could have seen what happened to Israel, but they still didn't repent for their sins or turn away or keep doing good, because Hezekiah did good. Then you had Manasseh and Amnon who just did evil. Josiah came and tried to revive up, but Manasseh did so much evil after Hezekiah, which was so crazy. He did so much evil. God was like, bro, I cannot pardon this. I cannot pardon this.
Proverbs. Let me find King James. Proverbs 29, verse 18. Where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Right? When it comes to who was before Josiah, Manasseh. Okay, Hezekiah. Hezekiah realized that things was completely out of hand and that it was wrong and it was going to end in destruction. So Hezekiah led Judah righteously. Hezekiah had some downfalls, but Hezekiah was righteous in terms of the metric that the author of 2 Kings goes through. They say if they did good or if they did evil. They classified Hezekiah as doing good in the eyes of the Lord. Hezekiah's son, Manasseh, did not care. That man worshiped every type of idol. You understand what I'm saying? Josiah, it was so bad to the point where Josiah didn't even know that Yahweh was the Most High God for real, bro. When they learned about this book, they was like, what? You see what I'm saying? And he was like, bro, go to a prophet and let's verify this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I was watching a documentary on Nebuchadnezzar yesterday, right? It was a 1 hour documentary on YouTube. And this was a non-biblical, this is an academic, historic thing. And the narrator said it was during Nebuchadnezzar's reign when the people of Judah transitioned from polytheism to monotheism, right? And make no mistakes, that is unbiblical. That is not biblically accurate. There's some context that is greatly missing. That is missing context. Because if we just look at Manasseh reign, if we look at from Manasseh to Nebuchadnezzar, you can make that argument if that's where the starting point was. When it came to Manasseh, they worship all type of gods, even in the house of the Lord. So you could assume that God, Yahweh, was still being worshipped. You understand what I'm saying? Because, and for context, when Nebuchadnezzar, who is a few generations after Manasseh, when Nebuchadnezzar came and plundered the city, he took away things that was there from when Solomon was around. So we know Solomon them had the golden basins and the golden calf and stuff. And they saying that he took the gold that Solomon had placed in the temple. That implies to me that there was still artifacts, I don't know if that's the right word, in the temple that showed you Yahweh, and for Yahweh worship. But also in the temple, they had people who was doing sexual stuff to their gods. They had the celestial beings. Every god, this may being exaggerative, but Every god had their own shrine in this temple. That was during Manasseh's reign. And a lot of historians will tell you that Judah was polytheistic. And then you can see as the time progressed, when they go through the Romans and the Greeks, and they convert to just monotheism. They do stick to monotheism. That's a fact. There was a cultural shift, but that's only after they had already apostatized monotheism, went into polytheism where they worship multiple gods, and now they realize that, oh, maybe God was right this whole time. You see what I'm saying? But the tie my points together, Manasseh had no vision, and the people perished because of that. You understand? Manasseh himself get captured until he had to calm down and learn and principle up, like how we say in the Bahamas. He started to learn what's right. Now he was messed up. Now his son Josiah was 18 years into his reign. Mind you, he started young. He was 18 years into his reign, and they found the book of the law. Excuse me. The scribe read to him the law, and Josiah was like, bro, so you telling me everything that I know is a lie? Everything that I have learned was wrong. You know what I'm saying? And we know the story. If you don't know the story, look at last episode. And so Josiah cleaned everything up. He destroyed all the idols, all of the high places in multiple cities around Judah. And he even restored the Passover, so ceremonial feast. Like he really implemented the laws of the Torah to the people. But now he had a son, Jehoahaz, who did not care. Jehoahaz's brother, Eliakim, did not care. His son, Chin, I get mixed up, did not care. And so where there's no vision, the people will perish. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we could see where Josiah, him being righteous, Hezekiah, him being righteous, they saved a couple more years. They prolonged destruction for a couple more years because Hezekiah had disobeyed God. God was upset, and he said, your descendants are going to be taken away X, Y, Z, right? But we could see 2 generations later, he had a righteous descendant. So Hezekiah's son was taken away. So that prophecy is fulfilled. But 1 generation after that, Josiah, he was righteous. And so he wasn't taken away. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, I have noticed in my Bible reading that a lot of times God gives you a prophecy, but it's not set in stone until you continue in your actions. God is saying, this is going to happen to you. But what is implied but not said is that this is going to happen to you if you continue on the path that you're going on. But we see where people like Josiah, last chapter, Josiah, he was righteous before God, and God said, you ain't even gonna see what's about to happen. You know why? Because you righteous. You feel me? You repent, you ain't gonna see it. I believe that if his son had repented, God would have said, you repent, you ain't gonna see it. And it get to a point where if they had established a pattern of just righteous kings, they would have never see it. You understand what I'm saying? They would have never see it. You feel me? But we had a point now where this curse was just waiting to happen because God had already had enough. And he promised that this, even before there was even a king, he promised if y'all turn away the idols, this is going to happen.
Yep.
So you can't say God unfair, because I tell you ahead of time what the penalties are. Every law, every country that has a law, there are penalties for disobeying the law. So if people, especially young people, they get very dismissive of Christianity and the Bible. They say how angry God is, and especially the God of the Old Testament. But it's like, bro, how you could call me, how you could say I'm a madman if you provoke me and you've wronged me and I react accordingly. How am I wrong? You understand what I'm saying? If you know, bro, if you hit me, I am going to get very upset and I'll hit you back. If you hit me, right? Nobody watching what you do, but you see me upset and hit you back. They say, but Kaz is a tyrant, bro. He's a hot head, bro. You see how he acting? But you wouldn't even realize, but you hit me. I was minding my own business and I let you know this is a boundary of mine. I do not like to be hit. You feel me? Like it's not so much the ox, you know?
Mercy.
And so we see, and this chapter, brothers and sisters, I believe this is one of the most pivotal chapters in the book of Kings and even in the Bible because it gives you context as to what we see in the New Testament. So the New Testament is a lot of people's basis for Christianity. How did they get here culturally? How did what was the surrounding culture like when Jesus came around, and why was it like that? And why does Jesus act this way? You know what I'm saying? Culturally, the nation of Judah was never free for the rest of the Bible. And this is where it started. This is when they lost their freedom. It's a short chapter, and it's very it summarizes stuff. But we can see that a lot of history took place in this very chapter.
I wonder how Moses feel. I was like, wait, all that hard work, bro. I couldn't even enter the kingdom because y'all run me hot and I freak out. For y'all to lose it, bro. Like,
I think based on that, I think he wouldn't be shocked at all, bro. Because think about it, bro. You know, my Angelo said when someone show you their real self, believe them or something like that, right? Right. So now we have Moses who, for a few years, like I want to say like 2-3 years, you get to see a people who are insufferable, bro. Like not y'all didn't see the fire and the hailstorm and the thunder coming down.
Exactly.
And y'all don't see y'all don't hear the remember when I was about to go on the mount, y'all say y'all was too scared to hear from him? So why y'all gonna make a calf right in front of his face, bro? You know like they say behind your back, you do that in front of his back. You know what I mean? You do that right in front of his face. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. Like it's wild, man. It's wild. But man, like, yeah, this set the whole stage. Like, why were they stateless people again? I mean, they had the state. They just was under captivity at this point.
I feel like I'd be remiss not to talk about kind of the elephant in the world right now. It ain't really in the room. You see what I'm saying? So we see even Israel today. Now I'm gonna keep it brief because this is so wrapped up. It's like it's a very entangled.
Let's save it for next week when we actually end the whole go through all the kings and talk. Let's save it for next week.
All right, but let me just say that so people don't be like, people don't like when you start something and stop. Israel right now, they are at war for territories, right? But if this had never happened, there would be no need. If this had never happened and they had not fallen after other gods and brought the curses of Deuteronomy 28 on themselves, there would be no need to have a battle over space because they would have never have left. You understand what I'm saying? So they just would have occupied the southern kingdom that they always had. And if Judah had not, and if the northern kingdom of Israel had not fallen, they also would have had their space. So they would have had that entire region to themselves without fighting in other nations saying, oh, this is our land, etc. And so it all is a trickle down from these very events in 2 Kings.
Agreed. Oh, we still got this last piece to.
Yep.
So, reading from verse 17. Then the king of Babylon made Mattaniah, Jehoiachin's uncle, king in his place, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah. I got about his name is Zedekiah now, just in case.
Yep.
Mattaniah, Zedekiah. Yeah. So Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. He also did evil in the sight of the Lord according to all that Jehoiakim had done. But because of the anger of the Lord, this happened in Jerusalem and in Judah, that he finally cast him out of his presence. Then Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. And let's just say that didn't end well for him. But here in 2 Kings 24. I think we already kind of end up playing, but go for it.
Yeah, so they talk about how they take everybody captive and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why they got king? Why they have a king still?
Why did the Romans have Herod still in charge?
But okay, where was this king? Where was his territory? In Babylon over the Jews or in Jerusalem?
I think it was still there just to reign over the people, because now you still subservient me, but you still ruling over your territory, but you ain't. It's like you have power in as much so as the power I grant you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Same thing with Herod.
Yeah.
Herod was only a little different for the people who listen. They might say, "Oh no, it ain't the same thing." Herod was different because he wasn't a Jew, but yeah, other than that, the same concept.
Yeah, and Herod was subservient to the Romans.
Right.
Like why didn't Jesus go to the King Herod? Well, whoever was the king of Judah at the time, they carried him to Pilate. Who got the real authority here?
Right.
But yeah, so boy, oh boy, the Judeans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're still Israelites to me, but Judeans.
Yeah.
Oh my! It just shows to me like the gravity of sin. Like, to your point, some of these troubles might have passed from king to king if they had only turned to God. But it's just funny. I know we bring this up from time to time, but to me, it's just funny. But it was also simultaneously humbling how we could forget what God has done just a generation previously. How we forget the blessings that he poured upon us and the things that he spared our family from. And one generation later, well, arguably the effects of what God had done is still evident and still apparent. It isn't real to us, quote unquote. And then we forget and we lose faith. We start doing things we shouldn't do. We turn our backs on God. And God's still there saying, if you would just listen to me and do as I ask you to do, all would be well. But man, and to me, like, this happened thousands of years ago, but this is still very applicable even in today's current day. Like, how many times that we still lose faith? We forget the goodness of God. We forget what God did for us yesterday at times. And we look at the Israelites saying, "Oh man, you guys were complaining in the desert because you guys didn't have meat. God sent you guys quail. Oh, this ain't good enough." But we forget the things that God just brought us through yesterday, last month, last year. And we find ourselves in a similar position. What are we doing? Doubting God, losing faith, getting worried, stressing over these situations. And it's like God just brought you through something similar. And here you are, faced with a similar circumstance, reacting exactly the way you did previously. So in many ways, we ain't better than the Israelites. And it's humbling. And it's humbling. Like, it just shows that we still have growth, we still have improvement, but God, in his great infinite mercy and love for us, never turns his back on us. He's always there, waiting for us to repent. It doesn't negate some of the consequences of our own sinful actions that we must endure. But he's still there, like, I mean, we're going to go through these arcs, but we're about to go through the Bible where God was sending his prophets to warn the people about what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Even in captivity, God was still looking out for his people. We're going to get into the Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego at some point in the future. We're going to get into the story of Esther and was Naaman or Haman in the future. Like, we're about to get into, like, even though his people were in captivity, God still was there looking out for his people and still being their God. Mm-hmm. So it's about to be a fun ride. It's about to be a fun ride.
Yeah. I don't know if he's lying or playing.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Bro, it's just me being transparent. I like to be transparent. This for young people and, Christians, regardless of where you are with it. You know what I'm saying? But I say young people because the older generation, they probably had these feelings before and they already overcome it. Maybe not, I don't know. But I struggle, bro. I struggle to understand the Old Testament expectations versus New Testament and New Age Christianity or whatever. I struggle to see where the bridge is. We know that Jesus is the bridge because Jesus shows. I was reading Matthew 5 this morning, And Jesus would say stuff like, it's the same text with eye for an eye, but he would say stuff like, you've heard it said, don't commit adultery. But if you think about even a woman, you look at a woman as if you want to sleep with her, you've already committed in your mind. So Jesus saying, you heard where the Old Testament said this, but now I've given you more context on it. And then we can see where Paul, even after Jesus, a lot of things that he said was expounding on Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like Paul would say straight up, don't fornicate. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of times in the Old Testament, they focus on do not commit adultery, which has a little different of a context because it deals with like marriage, unless I'm mistaken. But fornication, 100%, that's like sexual stuff outside of marriage, you know, and it's more nuanced than that too, but you all get the gist. And if you don't, you could Google it. I don't know the definition offhand. But I struggle to understand the expectation because you and I, we born and raised Seventh-day Adventists. So we subscribe to the dietary laws in Leviticus. You understand what I'm saying? Some people say, oh, the Levitical laws done away with, nailed to the cross, X, Y, Z, right? But there are still stuff in the Old Testament that had grave punishments for that are not in the Ten Commandments. You understand what I'm saying? That like I can give a random one. Bestiality, right?
Mercy.
It ain't committing adultery. I mean, unless I got the wrong definition of adultery, but that's a sexual sin. And they talk about that. And no, I give you an easier one. That one a little dicey. Witchcraft. You see what I'm saying? Like, I mean, everything I say, I answered it in my mind because witchcraft can go against having other gods before me and having other idols. But anyway, between those two things, right? In Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and the Torah, they get specific on certain things. They're not explicit in the Ten Commandments, but it's a specific line. Hey, don't do this. Don't consult a medium. I might be a Christian, bro. I might worship God. I don't worship idols, but I consult a medium. That was a either getting cut off from your people offense or dying or an offense where you die from. But in the New Testament, it's like he without sin cast the first stone. Like we see Jesus showing people grace and mercy, and because of that, people there's no severity with certain things, and people it gives room for people to assume, oh, this ain't even it don't even matter, bro. You just gotta love your neighbor as yourself and love the Lord with all your heart. You know what I'm saying? And so texts like these, and I don't know if it resolve, I'm just venting right now. Texts like these remind me that the extreme of saying the things are done away with is probably wrong because of how passionate God was about it in the Old Testament. I don't see it being a thing where God was so passionate. Oh, don't suffer a witch to live. Don't do witchcraft. Don't consult spiritists, right? And then in the New Testament, it'd be like, oh, them laws was nailed to the cross, bro. We just gotta love our neighbor. You know what I'm saying? And love God with all our heart. You know what I'm saying? God don't care. He ain't tripping. But in the Old Testament, he was like, bro, like people should die because of that. You understand what I'm saying? We can see the extremes that happen when the Israelites worship idols, right? Now, I believe that during that time, Yahweh was the only God without a face, right? And so, or without a visual for him, because, you know, they were to make graven images. So every other God back then, you had to have a picture for him. You see what I'm saying? There had to be a picture. So when it comes to idols, I look at that as being deeper than a statue that you worship, but it's just that you have a different religion just altogether outside of Yahweh. You understand what I'm saying? And all them religions, they had statues to show for who these people were. So it's one and the same, and the way I view it. And so just condoning other religions outside of the Most High God, they turn away from that. So like I have friends who born and raised Adventists, but when they get old enough, they pull from Pan-Africanism, you know what I'm saying? They pull from Islam. They pull a little bit from Christianity, but you know, they pull from Egyptian ancient religion and stuff like that. And they have a mixture of things, and they look at Yahweh. And I remember NBA player Kyrie Irving, like he is talk like that. Like he is talk like all of these people are like different sources of God. You know what I'm saying? And then we have people like Oprah Winfrey, Jesus is not the only way. You know, it's a new age religion where people believe that it's one God, but it's umbrellas. You know what I'm saying? And all of these paths can take you there. And therefore, it's okay if you say, I pull from Rastafarian in this regard. I pull from Christianity in this. I pull from Buddhism in this regard. I was watching a video the other day where a dude was like, he's a Buddhist Christian because Buddhist is a philosophy, like a way of life type of situation. And I'm like, interesting. I see in the Old Testament where somebody had, our body is the temple. Look at what Manasseh did in the temple. He filled it up with all type of different gods. And the author made a mention to say, bro, this very thing God said that he would destroy you all for doing this, bro. This is what y'all doing. Our temple, you know what I'm saying? We filling it with this type of God, this type of mindset, this type of spirituality. I have a friend, bro. And I this, you know, this my part, me and you, this is our podcast. So I speaking from personal experience. Like I try my best to be as personal as possible. I have a friend, bro. This my boy was online, and he was saying how Adventism have him to believe everything is the devil. You know what I'm saying? When in actuality it ain't. Some people look at Zodiac and they say, bro, that's a hidden light. That's a hidden truth that people want you to think is the devil. And they saying that with their whole chest, bro. This is what people believe. You understand? And so like when I'm reading the Old Testament, I'm like, bro, I find myself to be conservative, bro. I dress like a regular person. You know what I'm saying? I think I'm still a young, vibrant person. You know what I'm saying? So on appearance, people might not assume that about me. But when it come to certain things, bro, I feel like I side with conservatism a lot now. I'm not extremist. Like I don't think it matters if a woman wear pants and things like that. Like because you know it can get extreme. I'm not on the extremes, and you understand what I'm saying. But I am more knowledgeable of the Old Testament and the laws of the Old Testament. Like I feel like I am more bound to that. Like you know what I'm saying, than what people try to explain as New Testament theology. And when I see New Testament theology, having already had the context of the Old Testament, I say I know that when God says, love your neighbor as yourself, he quoted early Deuteronomy 5 and 6, where Deuteronomy 5 is the 10 Commandments, and then he talk about the Shema, and all of these things are one. If you love your neighbor, you would not take his wife. You would not take his stuff. I wouldn't even worry about Earl car and this house. Oh, I want that. You understand what I'm saying? Because I love my neighbor, you know? And so I can put the two together, bro. But I feel like a lot of people lack that context. And so they lean more towards one side. But right now, in my studies, bro, like, and it's going to take a while, but I really pray for wisdom so that I can have the bridge, bro, so I can be firm in understanding why if it's anything that we should not be doing in terms of Old Testament, why not? For instance, and I know I kind of be laboring this point, I know where we are on time, but for instance, sacrifice, right? Sacrifices, right? Observing certain Sabbaths. I believe that when Paul says a shadow of things to come, right? A shadow of things to come. These things were supposed to be a sign of things to come. You understand what I'm saying? Like a shadow is like the remnant of something that's actually there. You understand what I'm saying? A shadow is like I don't want to say reflection, but it's like the evidence of something that's already there. If the sun is shining on me behind me, you can see a shadow because I am an actual tangible body. You understand what I'm saying? But it's a shadow of things to come. So it's not the real thing, but it's a type to the real thing. It's a foreshadowing. It's a foreshadow of things to come. You understand what I'm saying? And so when it comes to lamb sacrifices, right? That sacrifice was a shadow of the actual lamb to come. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like, and then in the Daniel prophecy, they say the Messiah will come and he'll put an end to temple sacrifices. So I understand very well why I don't offer lamb sacrifices. You know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of laws in Leviticus and that the Israelites were bound by And I need to understand, if I was to say, shave my beard, which you and I, we don't have that. So thank God we don't really even have the opportunity to, you know what I mean, to transgress that, if that is still
One
binding.
man's blessing is another man's curse.
Right. You see what I'm saying? So I want to know why to do things or not to do things. And that was really pressing on me because I can see where the Israelites followed after other gods.
Mm-hmm.
Now, love the Lord your God as yourself. I believe that means to don't worship idols and don't do all them things. I believe that embodies the first 4 commandments. Loving the Lord your God with all your heart, that's the first 4 commandments regardless. You see what I'm saying? Because if you love the Lord, you can keep his day holy. Because if God's like, yesterday was my birthday, right? And from your kid, understand from listening to the pod, I don't care that much about my birthday, right? But there's certain things I don't support. I don't support when people try to make it about them. If you're trying to do something for me, you see what I'm saying? So if you're taking me out to eat and I tell you I don't want to go, I don't like this place, but you love it, I don't expect you to try to bring me to your favorite spot on my birthday. You see what I'm saying? I'm like, bro,
I know someone who called like that, buddy.
Yeah, as I say, I know people who call like that, bro. Your birthday or not, they ain't going to where they don't want to eat, where they don't want the food. You see what I say? Like, some people call like that. You know what I mean? But if God say, bro, at the end of this week, I make a day holy. It ain't just that I rest, I hallowed this day. I sanctified this day. You see what I'm saying? I make this day. I feel like we don't have the authority to desanctify it unless God say, all right, y'all, it ain't sanctified no more. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe that's God-like, but if God was to do it, I would have been completely fine saying not do that. Like right now, bro, I want to play. I used to play NBA fantasy, bro. I want to check my score, bro. I want to check my stats, bro. You see what I'm saying? But I don't want to do that because I don't find that to be a holy thing to do. I find that to be a secular thing to do because it is. You know what I'm saying? It'll completely distract me, you know? But to land the plane, we see where the Israelites, as a whole, the northern and the southern kingdom, right? They have fallen because they broke the law continuously. They broke the law without conscience. They did not care. They provoked God to anger. That's God's words. And because of that, their whole city was taken away. They were taken into captivity. It's been happening. It continued to happen throughout the Old and the New Testament, right? However, our punishment is not immediate. It's not expedient as it was for them. And theirs, quite frankly, wasn't either because there was people for hundreds and thousands of years that was dealing with this. When God was speaking about Manasseh, God said, bro, y'all was doing this ever since Egypt. And how long ago, bro? It was years ago that we talked about that on the pod, bro. 2 years ago, we was talking about Egypt. You know what I'm saying?
Word, yeah.
That was a long time. We was like, even in the Bible, bro, like, that was a long time ago.
In part time, it was long.
In part years, that was long ago. You understand what I'm saying? And the fact that it's the thing about God, bro. We don't see God every day. Like, we don't physically see him. You know what I'm saying? So, but we can't live as if he does not exist. And just because we don't see the impact of our transgressions, we cannot live as if it does not exist. This chapter right now, whether it's expedient to your life or not, this is a representation of how God keeps his promises even when it's for the bad. If he promised to bring despair and curses, if you disobey, it will come. You understand? Unless you repent. But we serve a God that is so gracious that he is not slack concerning his promises, but he holds on. This is me paraphrasing now. This Peter 3:15. I think, yeah. But he holds off so that so that everyone can be saved. Basically, that's what they say. He prolongs his coming. He prolongs his judgment. He prolongs his consequences so that people can turn around and be saved. Because if Jesus was to come right now, a lot of us who's sitting on the fence would not be saved. But we serve a God who is so righteous. We know what we do. We know all the things that we disregard, all the things that in the Bible that make us uncomfortable, so we ignore it. I ain't learning with this. I ain't going to try to get to the bottom of this. He knows when we don't study to show ourselves approved. All of the things, all of the secret sins that we have, he knows that. And he prolongs his coming. He lengthens our lives to give us chance to repent and to avoid destruction.
Nebuchadnezzar conquered Judah and completely plundered the land. He carried to Babylon all the treasure out of the house of the Lord and he also took any person of value with him. Meanwhile, in Judah, he appointed a new king, Zedekiah, to rule over all those who remained. But Zedekiah and the people rebelled. But we'll talk more about that on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.